Hello, everybody. It's Paul with Torah Life Ministries. We're doing our live Bible reading. We're up to Second Chronicles, chapter 31. We're going to open up with prayer today. The Shema found in Deuteronomy 6, 4-9. Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad. Baruch Shem Kivo Malhuto Leolam Vaed. Hear, O Israel, Yahweh is our Elohim, Yahweh is one. And you shall love Yahweh with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And have these words which I command you this day be upon your heart. And you shall teach them diligently to your children. And speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you retire, and when you rise. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and let them be frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them on the doorpost of your house, and upon your gates. Hallelujah. Okay, we are up to 2 Chronicles 31. We're looking at King Hezekiah and his religious reforms. And we saw him, at least in the last chapter, really bringing things back to Yahweh's worship and the way Yahweh wanted them things done. So we look here in verse 31, and it says, starting off, or chapter 31, it says, when the festival ended, this was the festival they were celebrating, the Israelites who attended went to the towns of Judah, Benjamin, Ephraim, and Manasseh, and they smashed all the sacred pillars, cut down the Asherah poles, and removed the pagan shrines and altars. After this, the Israelites returned to their own towns and homes. And the note here says, why was idol worship so bad? The Israelites had access to the one true Elohim, but they consistently fell into worshiping lifeless idols made of wood or stone. They put aside worshiping the Creator in order to worship the creation. We are just as guilty when Yahweh no longer holds first place in our lives. When we think more about wealth, pleasure, and prestige, or material possessions than about our Elohim, we are actually worshiping them as gods. Because of idol worship, the people of Judah were eventually sent into captivity in foreign lands. We may not be sent into captivity, but discipline awaits all those who continually put earthly desire above spiritual priorities. Exactly. Such an important lesson. And verse 2, now we see Hezekiah then organized the priests and Levites into divisions to offer burnt offerings and peace offerings to worship and give thanks and praise to Yahweh at the gates of the temple. The king also made a personal contribution of animals for the daily and morning evening burnt offerings, the weekly Sabbath festivals, the monthly new moon festivals, and the annual festivals prescribed in the law of Yahweh. It says here, the priest has not been supported by the government during the evil king's reigns. Now the temple was repaired. Hezekiah organized the priest and resumed the work of the temple according to the plan originally set by David in 1 Chronicles 23, verses 6-24, and 1 Chronicles 24, verses 3-19. And it says, in addition, he required the people of Jerusalem to bring a portion of their goods to the priests and Levites so they could devote themselves fully to Yahweh, the work of Yahweh, to the law of Yahweh. Verse 5, when the people of Israel heard these requirements, they responded generously by bringing the first share of their grain, new wine, olive oil, honey, and all the produce of their fields. They brought a large quantity, a tithe of all they produced. The people who had moved to Judah from Israel and the people of Judah themselves brought in the tithes of their cattle, sheep, and goats, and tithe of the things that had been dedicated to Yahweh by their Elohim, and they piled them up in great heaps. They began piling them up in the late spring, and the heaps continued to grow into early autumn. When Hezekiah and his officials came and saw these huge piles, they thanked Yahweh and his people Israel. Now the note says, Hezekiah reinstated the practice of tithing, giving a tenth to one's income to the priest and the Levites so they could be free to serve Yahweh and minister to the people. The people responded immediately and generously. Yahweh's work needs the support of Yahweh's people. Does Yahweh receive regular percentage of your money income? Generosity makes our giving delightful to us and to Yahweh. How different the church would be today if believers consistently vowed this pattern. Now we read number verse 9. Where did all this come from? Hezekiah asked the priests and the Levites. And Azariah, the high priest from the family of Zadok, replied, since the people began bringing their gifts to Yahweh's temple, we have had enough to eat and plenty to spare. Yahweh has blessed his people, and all this is left over. Hezekiah ordered that the storerooms be prepared, the storerooms be prepared in the temple of Yahweh. When this was done, the people faithfully brought all the gifts, tithes, and other items dedicated for the use in the temple. Kenneth the Levite was put in charge and assisted his brother Shami. The supervisions under them were Jehiel, Azahiah, Nathan, Athiel, Jemoth, and Jezabad, Eli, Ishmachah, Mahath, and Biha. These appointments were made by King Hezekiah and Azariah, the chief official in the temple of Yahweh. Kor, the son of Emal, the Levite, who was the gatekeeper at the east gate, was put in charge of distributing the voluntary offerings given to Yahweh, the gifts and the things that had been dedicated to Yahweh. His faithful assistants were Eden, Merriman, Jasiah, Shema, Amariah, and Zechariah. They distributed gifts among the families of the priests of the towns by their divisions, dividing the gifts fairly among the old and the young alike. They distributed the gifts to all the males 3 years or older, regardless of their place in the genealogical records. The distribution went to all who would come to Yahweh's temple to perform their daily duties, according to their divisions. Verse 17. They distributed gifts to the priests who were listed by their families in the genealogical records, and to the Levites 20 years old or older, who were listed according to their jobs and their divisions. Food allotments were given to the families of those who listed in the genealogical records, including their little babies, wives, sons, daughters, for they had been faithful in purifying themselves. As for the priests, the descendants of Aaron, who were living in the open villages around the towns, men were appointed by name to distribute portions to every male among the priests and to all the Levites listed in the genealogical records. In this way, King Hezekiah handed this distribution throughout all of Judah, doing what was pleasing and good in the sight of Yahweh, his Elohim. In all that he did, in the service of the temple of Yahweh and the efforts to follow Yahweh's laws and commands, Hezekiah sought Yahweh, his Elohim, wholeheartedly, and the result was very successful. And the note here says, because Hezekiah did what was pleasing and good in the sight of Yahweh, his Elohim, he led the people of Judah in spiritual renewal. His actions serve as a model of renewal for us. Number 1, he remembered Yahweh's compassion. Number 2, he kept going despite ridicule. And number 3, he aggressively removed evil influences from his life. He interceded for the people, asking Yahweh's pardon. That was number 4. Number 5, he was open to spontaneous worship. Number 6, he contributed generously to Yahweh's work. If any of these are lacking in your life, consider how they might apply and renew your commitment to Yahweh. All right, so that was chapter 31 in 2 Chronicles, as we continue to see Judah and the king's lines in Judah as a recap of this and the last book that we're reading in the original covenant. So praise the wonderful Creator, everybody. Have a blessed day today. Yahweh be with you all this day and always. Keep reading your scriptures, and shalom, shalom.